He had made it. Not in the way people post online. Not with Ferraris or flashy speeches or millions of followers. No. His was the kind of success that doesn't need to shout. A quiet corner office. A trusted voice in every meeting. A name that carried weight without needing to be repeated. He led teams. He built systems. When others panicked, they looked to him. He was calm, calculated, experienced. He didn't chase the spotlight, it followed him. Not because he asked, but because he delivered. Again and again. For over 2 decades, he climbed. He outlasted trends, navigated chaos, survived recessions. He knew how to lead, how to build. He was the blueprint others studied. But something, quiet, had started shifting. At first, it was barely a whisper. New tools, new jargon, a different rhythm in the room. The younger ones started talking faster. Their confidence wasn't earned yet, but it was loud. Too loud. He dismissed it. Just noise, he thought. Give them time. They'll learn how the real world works. But the noise didn't fade. It grew, until it started sounding like the new language of relevance. He was still good, still respected, but he could feel something slipping. Not his status, not his job, something deeper. His edge. He used to walk into a room and shape the conversation. Now he was following it, half a second behind, nodding at words he didn't fully grasp. He told himself it was nothing. You can't know everything, he thought. You delegate now. That's leadership. But deep down, a seed had been planted. A doubt. He still crushed the quarterly numbers. Still got the handshake at the company dinner. Still heard, we couldn't do this without you. But those words didn't land the same. Because when he looked around, something had changed. The interns weren't just learning. They were creating. With tools he'd never used. With ideas that came from places he hadn't visited, digitally or mentally. He watched one of them build a prototype in a weekend. A tool that replaced 3 months of work. It wasn't perfect, but it worked. And everyone was clapping. He clapped too. But inside it stung. Not because they were better, but because they were faster. Because they saw something he didn't. And for the first time in a long time, he felt old. Not in years. In relevance. And that's a different kind of aging. The kind that doesn't show up in mirrors. Only in boardrooms. In pitch meetings. In the quiet after applause. Still, he kept showing up. Still led. Still advised. Still got things done. But he started avoiding certain projects. Avoiding certain tools. Avoiding certain conversations. Avoidance is subtle. It looks like focus. It sounds like strategy. But it's fear. And he was afraid. Not of being replaced. But of becoming invisible. Because that's how it happens. Not with a layoff. Not with a scandal. Just less input. Fewer questions. Less weight to your voice. He went home one night, poured a drink, and sat in silence. The numbers were fine. The title still impressive. The respect still there. But something was missing. Growth. He hadn't felt that in a long time. He had mastered his world. But the world had moved on. And it hit him. He had spent years building a castle, while the rest of the world learned to fly. All his bricks, experience, systems, wisdom, still mattered. But they didn't move like the world moved now. And in that moment, sitting in the dim glow of his success, he whispered a sentence he'd never said before. I think I stopped learning. It wasn't shame. It wasn't failure. It was just truth. Heavy. Honest. Liberating. Because now he could face it. Not as a weakness, but as a starting point. Not the end of a chapter. The beginning of something else. The next morning, the office looked the same. Same glass walls. Same daily sink. Same smiles. But he was different now. Not on the outside, on the inside. The sentence still echoed. I think I stopped learning. At first, he tried to shake it. Threw himself into meetings. Scheduled calls. Faked urgency. But once you hear that voice, the real one, you can't unhear it. You start seeing what you were ignoring. He looked at a presentation from one of the junior analysts. Half his age, double the speed. They had used tools he hadn't even heard of. Automated workflows. Instant analytics. It wasn't just smart, it was alien. He nodded, smiled, even clapped. But deep down, he didn't understand a word of it. He sat in silence after the meeting. Not because he was angry. Because he felt exposed. Left behind, quietly, efficiently. The world had stopped waiting for him. So he did what many high performers do when they're threatened. He doubled down on what he knew. Experience. Strategy. Big picture thinking. The old weapons. But the problem is, Those weapons don't cut in a new war. He started to see it everywhere. The new interns coded faster than he could type. The product team spoke in acronyms he didn't understand. Even his own direct reports were evolving. He could feel them softening their language around him. Not disrespectful, just careful. The way you talk to someone who doesn't get it, but still signs the paycheck. And then it happened. A boardroom strategy session. New business proposal. New markets. He made a strong case. Everyone nodded. But they didn't build on it. They pivoted to someone else. The younger VP. Fresh. Fast. Fluid in the new world. And for the first time in years, he wasn't driving the conversation. He was watching it. From the passenger seat. It didn't hurt his pride. It cracked it. Because it meant everything he had built. The meetings, the decisions, the intuition. Was slowly becoming background noise. And that night, he didn't pour a drink. He opened his laptop. At first, just a Google search. What is generative AI? Top trends in business strategy 2025. Best productivity tools leaders are using. And it hit him. He had no idea what people were talking about anymore. His LinkedIn feed looked like a foreign language. Startups. Automation. Personal branding. Everyone reinventing. Except him. That night, he went down a rabbit hole. Articles. Courses. Videos. He read, watched, clicked, hungry. Not for likes. Not for a raise. For understanding. He didn't sleep. Not because of stress, because of curiosity. And for the first time in years, he felt it again. The ache of learning. The humility of being a beginner. The uncomfortable joy of not knowing. He signed up for a course. Then two. Then a mentor session. Then a weekend workshop. None of it was shared. He didn't post it. Didn't announce his comeback. Because this wasn't for show. This was war. A war against comfort. Against stagnation. Against the silent arrogance of success. Every day after work, he studied. Quietly. Alone. He sat through beginner modules with kids fresh out of college. He asked dumb questions. He got things wrong. A lot. But he kept showing up. He got a second monitor. Started journaling again. Made flashcards like he was in school. It was hard. Not just the content. The vulnerability. To go from being the man in the office to the rookie in an online class. That bruises the ego. But something stronger than ego had awakened. Hunger. He started seeing everything differently. He saw how many processes in his team were outdated. He noticed how much faster decisions could be made. How many missed opportunities they couldn't see. Because he couldn't see them. And slowly, he started speaking up again. Not like before. Not loud. Just sharp. Precise. He brought a new tool into a product meeting. No one expected it. They were surprised. Then impressed. Then quiet. Because they saw it too. He wasn't just adapting. He was transforming. And they didn't know what to make of it. Because when a veteran walks into the beginner's circle and becomes a student again, that's rare. That's dangerous. Because now he had something no one else had. Wisdom with speed. Experience with innovation. Age with evolution. He wasn't trying to reclaim his throne. He was building a new one. One no one could take from him. The months passed. Quietly. He didn't post his certificates. He didn't update his job title. He didn't start calling himself a lifelong learner on social media. He just worked. While others debated trends, he was mastering fundamentals. While they posted thought leadership, he was building real leadership. It started to show. Not in noise, in outcomes. His team meetings became faster. Smarter. He brought tools and strategies no one expected from someone like him. People listened differently. Because he wasn't just speaking. He was delivering. And he never said, "See, I'm back." Because he wasn't back. He was new. Better. Sharper. Lighter. Not weighed down by ego, only lifted by growth. The same colleagues who once whispered that he was slipping started asking for his thoughts again. This time with real curiosity. Not because of his title, but because his words came from depth, not just memory. You see, when someone who once led by default learns to lead by design, the whole room feels it. And then came the moment. An industry summit. Big stage. Big players. He was invited, not because of his resume, but because of the shift. The quiet ripple that had turned into a wave. He walked onto that stage not to impress, but to share. No buzzwords. No jargon. He talked about learning. About unlearning. About becoming a beginner in the middle of success. And when he paused, the room didn't clap. They just sat still. because he was saying what they all felt, but never admitted, that they were tired, falling behind, afraid to lose relevance in a world that moves without mercy. He spoke not like a guru, but like a man who almost didn't make it, who almost got stuck in the comfort of competence, who almost mistook stability for progress. And in that moment, he didn't just speak for himself. He spoke for every leader, who silently feared they'd been passed by. When he walked off stage, people followed him, not to flatter, to learn. They asked, "What course did you take? What's your reading list? How do I start again?" And for the first time, he shared, not from a place of superiority, but from a place of service. Because the truth is, he didn't rise alone. He rose because he finally let go of being the smartest man in the room. He became a student again, not in public, but in private. And now he had nothing to prove, because the proof was in his presence. He didn't chase relevance. He became it. He didn't seek praise. He earned respect. He didn't fear the young guns. He collaborated with them. He built bridges, not barriers. And his secret weapon? He never stopped learning. Not after the summit. Not after the applause. Because he knew something most people don't. Success doesn't protect you from becoming obsolete. Only learning does. He had learned to fall in love with the process, not the result. He still studied every night. Still took notes. Still watched tutorials from people half his age, with twice his humility. Because he wasn't learning to compete. He was learning to contribute. He became the kind of leader who didn't just manage people. He inspired them to evolve. And the younger generation? They didn't see him as a relic anymore. They saw him as a blueprint. A man who had every reason to stay comfortable, but chose discomfort instead. A man who could have coasted on reputation, but chose to rebuild in silence. And when people asked, "How did you do it?" he smiled, not out of pride, but gratitude, because now he finally understood. The goal was never to stay on top. The goal was to keep climbing, even when no one's watching. That's what lifelong learning really is. Not a buzzword, not a course, a way of being, a quiet decision made daily, to show up, to stay curious, to get uncomfortable, to keep moving. And that's how he became unstoppable. Not because he was the best, but because he refused to be finished. So to every person watching this, every professional who feels the gap widening, who sees the future speeding up, understand this. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be fast. You just have to begin again. Lifelong learning is not a trend. It's not an app. It's a commitment to growth, to relevance, to becoming the person your future needs, not the one your past admires. He sits by the window now, coffee in hand, morning light creeping in. No calendar alerts yet. No meetings. Just stillness. He's not retired. He's not slowing down. But for the first time in a long time, he feels peace. Because the war inside him is over. Not the battles of business, those still come. Not the pressure of performance, that never leaves. But the deeper war. The one against irrelevance. The one against his own pride. The war of pretending he knew when he didn't. The war of acting like he was still on top when deep down he felt like he was slipping. He had fought that war in silence. And won. Not because he crushed the competition, but because he crushed his ego. And now, he's different. Not louder. Not flashier. Quieter. More present. More useful. He walks into rooms and listens more than he talks. Because he finally understands. Learning doesn't end when you get to the top. That's where it starts. His team? They trust him more now. Because he doesn't act like he has all the answers. He asks better questions. And when he doesn't know something, he says it without shame. That's real leadership. Not certainty, but humility. His kids notice too. They see him studying again. Reading. Taking notes. Trying. Not because he has to, but because he wants to. He became a model, not just of success, but of reinvention. That's what people miss. It's not about staying relevant for the market. It's about staying real to yourself. Curious. Open. Hungry. He once thought age was the enemy. That time would pass him by. But now he knows. Age doesn't make you obsolete. Stagnation does. So he moves. Every day. Not just his body, but his mind. He still signs up for classes. Still sits in rooms where he's the least informed. Still learns from people 20 years younger. And thanks them for teaching him. That's power. The kind that doesn't scream, but whispers. I'm not done yet. And now, he teaches too. Not from a podium, but in small moments. One-on-ones. quiet mentorship, unexpected encouragement. He tells others what he wishes someone had told him sooner. It's okay not to know. It's okay to fall behind. It's okay to disappear for a while. What matters is whether you come back stronger, and why you come back at all. He looks at the younger crowd now. Bright, fast, fearless. And he doesn't feel threatened. He feels proud, because he's no longer trying to hold his place. He's trying to build a bridge. That's what lifelong learning gives you. Not just skills, but purpose. Not just updates, but upgrades to your thinking, your habits, your perspective. And when someone asks him, "What's your secret?" he says, "Stay dumb. Stay curious. Stay uncomfortable." That's how you keep moving forward. It's not fancy advice. It's not viral. But it's true. Because here's the truth no one puts on their resume. The most powerful people in the room are often the quietest. Not because they know everything, but because they're still learning. And when you become that kind of person, the kind who doesn't need to be right, doesn't need to be first, doesn't need to be seen, that's when you become unstoppable. He knows this now. He doesn't look back with regret. He's grateful for the fall, for the doubt, for the silence. Because without it, he would have never risen. Not to a promotion, not to a title, but to a new version of himself. One that isn't afraid to change. One that chooses to change. That's the gift of lifelong learning. Not knowledge, but renewal. And if you're watching this, wondering if it's too late, if you're too far behind, if you missed your shot, listen closely. It's not too late. It's never too late. You don't have to go fast. You just have to go forward. Start today. Pick up a book. Ask a question. Sign up. Log in. Fail. Ask again. Keep going. You don't need to prove anything to anyone. Just promise yourself you'll keep moving. Because the world will always change. And if you let it, you can change too. Not to survive, but to lead. Years have passed now. He still wakes up early. Still reads. Still learns. But things are different. Not quieter. Not slower. Just deeper. Because somewhere along the way, the journey stopped being about him. He no longer learns just to keep up. He learns to lift others up. The man who once feared becoming obsolete has now become a reference point, a mentor, a guide, a signal in the noise. He speaks at places now, not as the loudest voice in the room, but as the one with the most questions. Young people seek him out, not because he knows every new tool, but because he understands the terrain. And older peers? They ask him how he stayed relevant, how he still burns with curiosity, how he didn't let comfort consume him. He tells them, "I stopped chasing arriving and fell in love with evolving." Because somewhere along the way, he realized, the goal was never to know it all. The goal was to never stop wanting to know more. He now leads a team where age doesn't divide, it binds. Where the newest hire can teach the CEO. Where titles are lowercase, but learning is capitalized. You see, that's what lifelong learning does. It doesn't just make you smart. It makes you generous. Because knowledge that stays in your head is information. But knowledge that's passed on becomes legacy. He remembers the days he used to hide his confusion. Now he shares them, so others don't have to walk blind like he did. He tells stories, not strategies. He gives context, not just content. He teaches people how to think, not just what to do. Because in the end, the most powerful thing he built wasn't his career. It was his character, forged in failure, rebuilt in silence, sharpened through learning. That's the thing about this journey. It starts alone, but if done right, it ends with others walking beside you. The world is changing faster than ever. Technologies evolve. Markets shift. What was cutting edge yesterday is basic today. And yet, amid the chaos, noise, and overwhelm, a new kind of tribe is rising. They don't wear badges. They don't trend on timelines. They don't shout for attention. But you'll recognize them by how they move. Curious. Quiet. Constant. They are the lifelong learners. Not just students. Not just professionals. Not just hustlers. But a new breed of builders. They read when others scroll. They reflect while others react. They grow while others gossip. They're not chasing virality. They're chasing mastery. And now their numbers are growing. Because one man's transformation became another man's torch. One story became a signal. One decision became a movement. You see, this was never just about career, or technology, or even self-improvement. This was about something deeper. The human ability to renew, to reinvent, to rise again and again and again by choice. That's what lifelong learning is. It's not just taking a course. It's becoming the kind of person who never stops becoming. And now, it's your turn. You've heard his story. You've seen his fall, his silence, his rise. But the most important story is yours. The question isn't, are you ready? Because you'll never feel ready. The question is, are you willing? Willing to unlearn, to relearn, to start again. You don't need to disappear. You don't need to burn it all down. But you do need to choose. Because the world doesn't need more noise. It needs more people quietly becoming dangerous. Dangerous in their discipline, in their humility, in their hunger to evolve. That's what the new leaders look like. Not perfect, but progressing.